Okay, so car we should talk about is a Ford Bronco.
Yes.
It's a pretty old brand, the Ford Bronco itself. It's something that's been around for a while, and this year it's one of the hottest SUVs, and so it's direct competition for the Jeep Wrangler. And some similarities include it's got 2 4-door options, as in 2 and 4-door options. It's got removable top, so you can totally get rid of it. You just have like the exoskeleton vibes. It's obviously an off-road focused vehicle, and it's priced relatively similarly. So it was announced in 2020, and it's currently on sale in 2021, and prices in USD range from 30 to 60 grand. So it's a pretty big range, but they have a lot of different packages and model options, which I'll talk about in a sec. 2 engine options, both are EcoBoost. The first one is the turbo 2.3 litre 4-cylinder, which produces 300 horsepower and 420 newton meters of torque.
That's pretty impressive for a 2.4.
Yeah, it is. 420 newton meters of torque is pretty good for a little 4-cylinder. And 0 to 108 seconds, which isn't particularly fast, but it's a pretty large vehicle, so that's fine. The second engine option is a turbo 2.7 litre V6, which is 330 horsepower, just an additional 30, but it's 540 newton meters of torque, which is an additional 120, which will get you to 100 in a little over 6 seconds, which is not bad, to be honest. It's not slow for that type of vehicle. I've thrown it into a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of episodes ago, I talked about, we compared different like Cybertruck alternatives. So we talked about the Rivian R1T, the GMC Hummer, the Ford F-150 Lightning, stuff like that. I've just added 2 more lines to that particular spreadsheet to just show where it sits. Obviously, it's not in the same category, but it's similar in regards to off-road vehicles. It's not a pickup though. And so the Ford Bronco... we might even share this. It's for example, the price is top of the range is 60 grand, and so that's quite similar to the F-150 Platinum. But if you're going to get the Lightning version, the Lightning's an additional 30 grand. So it's relatively cheap in comparison. GMC Hummer's 110 grand. The Rivian looks like it's going to be about 80 grand. The Cybertruck looks like it's going to be about 70 grand. And so it's sitting in around 60 grand is not bad. Obviously, this isn't an EV. I'm not implying it is, but it's. I think it's still some form of competition for these guys. Most of them are going to come out in an automatic transmission, but you can rarely get a 7-speed manual. It is
7-speed manual.
Yes, wow. 7-speed manual.
Yeah.
The reason it's 7-speed is because it's got a crawler gear, which is to the left bottom.
Ah, cool.
So top left is reverse. You pull the collar up, top left, and then bottom left is a crawler gear, which restricts your RPM and just gives you, increased power at low revs or whatever.
Does crawler mean that you can't stall?
Maybe. Yeah, possibly.
I'm interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the technicalities of it.
Yeah, right.
So even with the manual, it has an electric parking brake, which is a little counterintuitive when you've got the gear stick there.
Yeah, yeah.
But because there was so little number of manuals being created, they weren't going to create a new system just for the manual version.
True, yeah.
The interior isn't particularly luxurious. You can buy a luxe version, but for the most part, it's made out of durable materials because it's tailored towards, it's tailored towards the people who are going to buy the Wranglers. So it's tailored towards people who are going to take it out on the beach.
Yeah.
It's not tailored towards like someone who's like wants a luxury AMG that looks like a off-road SUV.
Yeah, yeah.
It's tailored towards someone who's going to use an off-road SUV.
Yeah, and you don't want your muddy boots all over really nice carpet.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all just like you can just wash it out and that kind of vibe. It's like the buttons are all kind of like made out of rubber, for example. So you could press them with a glove is the idea. The aircon recirculation button and the adaptive cruise control and the stability control buttons, which all usually have little generic photos of little generic images of like cars. It has like a little image of a Bronco instead, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like just an outline. There's like a bunch of exposed screws that are kind of scattered around the interior. All of those say Bronco on them, which is kind of like it's a cool touch, I think. There's a plaque, which is just behind the gear selector or gear stick, depending on what you get, transmission-wise. And it shows the location of the manufacturing and stuff like that, which is just like trying to make it a little more special. The climate controls are hard climate controls. So whereas we're seeing in a lot of the cars, you've got a touch screen, which some people don't like. Particularly, it's not tactile, which might not really be consistent with the type of person who's going to buy this car. So they've made it the hard controls again. It's knobs that you can turn.
Yeah, because you don't want to be also like, you got like muddy fingers
Right.
and like you're trying to, you know.
And the touchscreen's not working. So yeah, it's just simple. It works, and it's not. It's not trying to prove anything impressive. It's got a mode selector like a lot of four-wheel drives have. So you can go, you know, two-wheel, four-wheel drive, high, low range, all that kind of stuff. It's got a hill descent mode, which is pretty standard in a four-wheel drive. But it has this thing called GOAT modes, which stands for goes over all terrains, which I think is a trademark thing that they've created.
Goat mode.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And so GOAT modes, there's up to 8 versions depending on which model you purchase. You'll get more or less modes. And so the modes include normal mode, eco mode, slippery mode, mud ruts mode, sand mode, Baja mode, rock crawl mode, for example. And so there's a gauge cluster, like in the middle of the screen, in the middle of the steering wheel, as you'd expect. It's got a speedometer towards the left, and then it's got a large screen in the middle. The difference between this vehicle and a lot of others is it's not really highly customizable. So you can't really edit what's on the screen. It basically just shows what it shows, which is a little unusual, but it is what it is. And to a certain extent, it's made up for by the infotainment system, which is in the center of the vehicle. It's a 12-inch screen, depending on what model you get. And from all accounts that I can see, from all reviews, it appears to be really intuitive and easy to use. So they've done really well with the infotainment system. When you start the car up, there's a little video that plays on the gauge cluster and on the infotainment screen, and it's got like these little rocks that like move.
Yeah,
and,
right.
You know, they like form like a little ball, and then it kind of all comes into this like little logo in this nature background.
Yeah.
Of like the Bronco logo.
Yeah.
It's almost like a little trailer for a movie.
Yeah, cool.
And so that plays every time you start the car.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, kind of a cool thing. There's like these little lights that sit on top of the mirrors. And they're embedded in the mirror, and so you can press a button and turn them on. And the idea of it is it's in the night, say you're in the bush or something, you can turn them on and you can see around the vehicle. You can see if there's maybe some wildlife around the vehicle or something like that. It has power ports in the front of the dash. So imagine where the dashboard meets the actual bottom of the windscreen. There's a random little flap that you can flip up, and right at the bottom of the windscreen, at the end of the dash, there's a little flap you can flip up. And it has a USB-A and USB-C port. And the idea of that is a lot of people who go full driving like having their GoPro sitting on the dash.
Oh, yeah, true.
And so instead of having to run that down to, like a cigarette lighter down in the dash, they have that port there ready to go, which is cool. Shows they put a lot of thought into it. The ceiling, like above the center console, the ceiling has 6 auxiliary switches, which is kind of cool. Like when you're full driving, one of them could be like, your big lights and, your air horn, or I don't know what full drive people have.
Whatever those people have.
Yeah. And there's a few things you can remove. So you can get rid of the hard top above the front seats. That's separate. And that's a one-man job. You can get rid of, or woman. You can get rid.
Very inclusive.
Yes, thank you. You can get rid of the rear top panel. That's more of a 2-person job and difficult to store. It's quite a large panel. And then you can remove the rear section above the boot space as well. So you can end up with just kind of like a cage look, like a Wrangler. From some LA person driving around in a Wrangler in a movie that you've seen or something. You can also take the doors off, and the windows are frameless. So like your BMW has frameless windows, right?
Hey, yeah, very
and
fancy.
The problem that we always have is that when you open the door, if you don't wait, it catches on the rubber, right?
Yeah.
This also has the same problem, but it's brand new.
It's good to hear they've really put a lot of thought into that one.
Yeah. So when you open the door, I've seen a bunch of videos of reviews and stuff. When you open the door, the actual glass kind of like moves because it's just hit the rubber and it hasn't had time to go down, which is a bit crappy, but it is what it is.
Well, at least mine worked when it was new.
Right.
Exactly. It was very fast when it was new. It just 20 years old, I don't know.
it's got this cool thing inside the fuel cap. When you open it, it's got these 3 generations of previous Broncos in little outline figures.
Oh, cool.
Which is like a little cool memento to the brand, the Bronco brand.
Because it's 100% about the people that used to have a Bronco.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, yeah, I want a new car, but I love the Bronco so much. Like,
well, it's tailoring. I think it's tailoring towards to like, my dad had a Bronco, and now I'm a 50-year-old man, and I have the money to buy a Bronco.
Yeah.
So I'm going to buy one, And it's nostalgic and all those things. The mirrors themselves, this is just a random fact, the mirrors are not connected to the doors. So when you open the door, it looks really weird when you actually think about it.
The mirror just stays
The
horizontal.
mirror just stays, which is really weird. It's like connected to the front quarter panel.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense, and the Jeep Wrangler didn't think of this, because when you take the doors off in the Jeep Wrangler, you don't have any side mirrors.
Yeah, right.
And so I assume you can't take the doors off in Australia, because that seems like it would be illegal.
Yeah.
But I think in America you can.
Yeah.
You just have to run without any side mirrors or get like an aftermarket replacement. But with the Bronco, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Because they're not connected, which is cool.
It's very Japanese to have your mirrors on the,
on
the
front.
bonnet.
Yeah, true. Right down on the front.
Probably not the same as
Like
what the Bronco's
the old
doing.
like skyline vibe.
Yeah. Well, just one mirror
Little
all the
round
way.
one.
All the way, like 10 meters away from where you're sitting.
I'm not sure if 10 meters is accurate.
Well,
So this is, it gets a little confusing. So the Bronco's notorious for being highly customizable. And the way they do that is they have a bunch of different models, and then they have a bunch of different packages that you can add to those models. So the models, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And the first one is called the base model, obviously. And so this is the essential Bronco, is the phrase that they use for this. And so it's just the essential things. It's all pretty basic interior, basic exterior. It looks like a Bronco. It is what it is. The next model is called the Big Bend.
Yeah.
And this is called the mainstream off-roading model. It has leather-wrapped steering wheel, heated seats, aluminum. Oh, I said aluminum. Sorry.
Aluminium.
Aluminium wheels. It has remote start. So it's got a few of the mod cons and the luxuries of today's world. The next one's called the Black Diamond, which they term the adventure off-roading vehicle. So it's got a few more serious things, like a rear locking diff. It's got steel front and rear. It's got steel front and rear bumpers, rock sliding rails, skid plates along the bottom of it, and then this is the start of the. It's got 7 goat modes in this particular model. So that's Model 3. The fourth model is called Outer Banks.
It's like the show. Do you know what? Oh, okay. Well, it might be a different thing, but
well, I'm sure it's not the same thing.
Maybe it's a Ford thing then.
What?
Well, all right. So there's a Netflix show called Outer Banks.
Oh.
And it's been like a super popular show for like the last year.
Really?
So it's like they kind of made that and not known that it's the same thing as a Netflix show. I don't know.
They might have.
Maybe.
Possible. So this one they term the off-roading in style version. So you get 18-inch high-gloss alloy wheels, you get LED headlamps and tail lamps, body-coloured fender flares. You get the 12-inch touchscreen in this version. You get an upgraded sound system, which I think might be optional. The next model is called the Badlands, which is one word, which is the extreme off-roading model. You get Bilstein shocks. You get a stabilizer bar disconnect, so you can click a button and disconnect your sway bar. Which I think that's like, when you like see those photos of the full drives and they've got like one wheel crazily up and the other one down.
Yeah.
I think you have to disconnect the sway bar to be able to get that kind of flexibility. So it's got a electric version, like you can electronically disconnect that sway bar or stabilizer bar. It's got a front and rear locking diff at this point, and you got 35 or 33 all-terrain tires. And you can do either a simple or a more stylish interior, depending on what your idea of the car should be. The next one is called the Wild Track, which I think they do a Wild Track in the Ranger as well.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So this is sort of this is the top of the line, and so it's they call it higher speed off-roading, and so it's got beadlock capable wheels. So beadlock, I'm not a full driving guy if you haven't noticed already, but my understanding is you can like literally screw the tires onto your rims, which is what they call bead locking. Because the bead of the tire is the bit that goes kind of over the lip of the rim. That's the bead.
Yeah.
And so if you bead lock, I think you actually physically lock it onto the rim. So if you get a bit of a flat or whatever, it still stays on. It doesn't fall off.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So it has it's all ready to go. It's bead locked capable, I guess you'd call it.
Hey, we went four-wheel driving one time together. That was pretty good.
With who? Oh, yes, we did.
Yes. And then we went through like a tiny puddle.
Yes.
And it was in a Land Cruiser.
Yes.
And the battery started smoking.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, we're in the tiniest puddle
right.
in the most reliable car in the world.
That's true.
And the battery started to smoke.
True.
I was like, what? How did that even happen? Anyway.
35-inch tyres. You get the V6 EcoBoost at this point, auto transmission, and you get a black grille and wheels. And then the last one is called the First Edition, which is totally full. So reservations for this particular vehicle are full, and it was limited run. So you can't buy it. And it has the best of absolutely everything. And it's basically their collector's version, I think. So if you got that one, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So of those, you can then add these packages. So you can add the standard package, which you get black door handles, mirror caps, fender flares, manual aircon, push start button. That's kind of what is a part of it. If you get the mid package, you then get remote start, heated front seats, enhanced voice recognition, auto emergency braking, blind spot information system, auto high beam, and lane keeping system. If you do the high package, which is the third one up, you then get the 12-inch touchscreen, 360-degree camera, and you get additional sound deadening to make it sound better in the cabin, higher quality. You can get the Luxe package, and then you get a few things with this one. You get adaptive cruise, high-quality sound system, evasive steering assist, which sounds scary, but I assume it evasively moves around things if you're aiming at them.
Yeah.
Anyway, heated steering wheel, universal garage door opener. I assume that means you can open anyone's garage door.
Definitely.
Sounds good for thieves. You get a few more USB points, and you get a wireless charging pad, which is cool. And then the last one, which is really cool, which is worth getting a photo of or some videos if we can, is called the Sasquatch package.
Yeah, so I found this when I was just looking up the Outer Banks. So the Outer Banks one is named after the place.
Okay. What place?
Well, it's the same thing. The show is named after the place.
Is it? Okay.
And so is the Ford Bronco Outer Banks.
Okay, I see.
So there you go.
Okay, great.
It's in NC, which I don't know where that is. North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Is my guess.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
If there are any Americans, correct us on Apple Podcasts.
Yes, please do. Give us a 5-star review. Give us a correction.
Yeah.
So the The Sasquatch package comes standard on the Wild Track and the First Edition, so they're basically the top versions. You get the beadlock capable wheels, you get the 35-inch mud tyres, electronic rear and front locking axles, 4.7 final drive ratio, high clearance suspension, Bilstein shocks, high clearance fender flares.
It's getting late.
Fender flares, sorry. So many words. It basically boils down to the Sasquatch package looks really aggressive. And if you were to then if you put a Sasquatch package vehicle next to one that isn't, you're never going to want to buy one that doesn't have that. So if you're going to buy a Bronco, it's going to need to have the Sasquatch package. It needs to have the bigger wheels. It needs to have the fender flares, the additional fender flares.
Yeah.
It just looks silly without it.
Yeah.
I like the car. We've got a friend here in Newcastle who has an older Bronco, and I sent it to him today.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I sent him some videos today, and they love it. So there was in some of the reviews that I watched, it was noted that it really is tailored more towards the owner of a Jeep Wrangler, as opposed to, it's not really a replacement for someone who owns a G-Wagon, for example, which is fancy inside but looks like an SUV off-road thing on the outside.
Yeah.
It's not that. So when you get in it doesn't feel highly luxurious. But if you are more the demographic who's going to buy a Wrangler, then I think this is potentially a better option.
Yeah, for sure.
It could be more collectible potentially, and there's been a lot of interest in it. So we'll just see how many they make. Will depend on whether or not it's collectible. If you've got the limited edition version, then higher chances that one day you might be able to sell it for more money. I like it. I wouldn't probably ever buy it because it's expensive, but I don't know. I could see why someone would want it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So
collectible item.
Yeah, I like it.
HQLA is the Australian. Wait. Let me put these back on. It's time to get serious.
Wait, were you not listening to anything I just said?
Zoning out from it. It's not like your voice can't travel across a meter. HQLA is the Australian company which is hoping for its own $39 billion acquisition. This has been episode 17. Thanks for joining us.
Yes,
Please tune in to Instagram to see a couple of reels and a few IGTVs.
Yes.
We're also on TikTok.
TikTok.
Which now features 3-minute clips as well as 1-minute clips. So we'll be mixing it up on the old TikTok.
We will.
We're also on Twitter.
Yes.
Their maximum video size, since we're talking about it, is 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay.
So we've actually been tailing our content, our longer form content, to be a maximum of that size.
Gotcha.
Feel free to give us a retweet, a like, a comment, and a follow.
And we've been considering doing some shorter versions of our full podcasts on our audio platforms. And we're thinking we might call that HQLA Essentials.
HQLA Essentials.
So
let
keep
us
your
know.
eyes out on that.
Give us a poll review of if you like HQLA Essentials or HQLA Quick Take.
Yes.
Also, make sure to hit us up with any kind of questions or queries, any suggestions, any segment title ideas. Hit us up at hqlapodcast@gmail.com. Also, we're also on BitClout. Feel free to buy our creator coin.
You know what? You can
BitClout.
actually email us at hello@hqla.com.
hello@hqla.com.
That's actually our email.
I'm going to blur out the other one and put this one in. And make sure that you stay safe during the pandemic.
There it is. Thank you.
There it is. Until next time, let's go. Bye.